Sometimes leaves me perplexed. Women are used to talking between themselves and sharing more horror stories than not. And I think we have a certain fear. And when we hold on to it, it was Ina May that was like, loosen your lips, like, and as you're loosen your lips, loosen your mouth, your bottom will be looser. When I learned, we considered a third of times that people tore, it was to the baby, position of the baby, maybe a hand coming through, maybe slightly off center. A third was because of the mother and her muscular structure. And a third was really unknown. What I would usually do is, if women really talk about it, I would get them on something that has a lot of vitamin E in it. And they can do it through capsules, they can do it through fish oil, they can do it however they want. So they feel that they're being proactive. Vitamin E will make your skin more flexible, more subtle. Especially somebody who has also combined with varicose veins. So that it just sort of helps tenacity of the veins. There have been many theories. I've been midwife for over 40 years. We used to, put hot compresses. We used to hold. We used to do all sorts of things, and basically leave it alone. We've been doing this. Our bodies know how to do it. And trust and try and just sort of, they would say, slow down the birth so that you're not getting all this pressure. But having had 5 babies, if anybody told me at their point to slow down, I would sort of look at them like, you're nuts. You're getting your baby out. You're doing it the best way you can. Believe in the process. Look at the women who are around, who have children, and know that many of them have gotten their babies out this way and believe in the process. Our fears of tearing and everything is basically 150 years old. Let's go back to our internal wisdom, belief, knowledge, and let that happen. I did learn how to stitch because I learned from midwives, and we would go to, we had doctors who would teach us. It was around Dartmouth Medical School in Vermont, New Hampshire. We had different doctors who were willing to teach. I considered it was part of birth. I mean, it is not just baby extraction. We have to be prepared for everything. So we knew how to stitch. Native Americans used to put honey on and keep the tissues together with putting honey on and trying to get women to sit with their legs together. Truthfully, I haven't found that when I say sit with your legs together, really, I don't want to guilt trip anybody, but sometimes you put your legs together and sometimes you don't. It depends upon the extent of the tear. And I really try and keep the women from tearing upwards. Like, I don't want those upward tears. So if a woman is helping her baby out, I try and make sure that it's not just pulling upwards, because it will tear upwards. So I think that covered a lot of it. Did you have more with that question?
If a woman does need stitches and use suture, do you recommend honey as well, or are there other herbs that you recommend after for healing?
I like plain old, I believe that it's going to heal. It's going to heal on its own. You can use honey. You can use honey. It's supposed to help bring the tissues together. And so that they will bind, and you'll bring up the healing between the tissues. There are herbs that help soothe the whole area. And in my practice, a lot of women, you guys have all wanted to be around, and I've tried not to be a specialist of all trades, and I would say talk to an herbalist for something that is soothing and comforting. Ice would work. If you want something else, talk to an herbalist. There's a lot of things. There's Chinese medicine. There's just Chinese medicine to help with things, with bringing the tissues together, not so much, but bleeding, they're really good with. The other thing I would say, especially if it's a first birth, is we're not going to be the same. Birthing changes us totally. And when we want to have that perineum that looks like nothing has ever happened down there, and there might be something different about it, it's not. You want to make sure that the woman comes together and she's functioning. But to have the perfect perineum, you have to have a pretty bad tear that it will affect it, and that you might want to go in and have somebody like stitch. I wouldn't stitch upwards into certain areas, because I want, you're peeing from there. You have other muscular structures. I'd want it done professionally. I would not be. They still tend to give extra stitches, which is horrific. I would just watch, or have somebody at the woman's bottom, if you're getting stitched, to watch and say, enough.
Thank you, Carole.
Okay.
Okay, can we address internal exams? Sometimes they feel very violating. Sometimes it's not comfortable because we already have someone in there. The question would be, are they really necessary? Are there times when it really should be done, or are there times when it can be avoided?
Is that one coming to me also?
Yeah.
I think 95 to 98% of internal exams are unnecessary, and a good portion of them are violence against women. I will actually, I might have people who will be against me for just saying that. There is no reason. A woman could walk around for a week or two with 4 or 5 centimeters dilated, and that baby's not coming out. Or a woman could be totally closed up, and in a half hour she can give birth. What difference does it make? If there is a very long labor, and this isn't working, that's not working, something else is not working, you feel the baby and they seem like they're presenting okay, but you want to make sure, like on the presentation or how the baby's head is tucked. And sometimes it can help. You can get an idea, especially if you want to then go on and do like a spinning babies move, to really get an angle of where that baby's head is. And you can then very easily turn that woman, get her into position, and this baby's come out really quickly. That place inside our vagina is not meant for other people. It is for ourselves. It's for our babies to come through. It's for our partners. It's our intimate, closed up, private place. I don't see a reason for internal exams, but I'm saying this on this platform. If you go into a conventional area, will give a woman stress with, like, put up barriers with her working relationship with a hospital. So you have to see who you're working with. I had a cousin who went into a doctor at 11:30 in the morning, and they said, oh, come back in a week. And she went out to a deli, and like 20 minutes after leaving the doctor, she said, I can't sit here. Went into the hospital. By 10 after 12, her baby was out. It doesn't make any, it didn't help her. You can have people who are like that. It doesn't make a difference. And just know that every time you hear a story from a woman who's telling her birth story and saying, and then at 2, I was 4 centimeters. And at 6, I was 5.5. And then at 8, I was this. You could open, you can close, but every time they put their hands inside you, it's a violation. They need to ask your permission. And as women, we have to always tell them, like, you may now. Our bodies are not, they're our bodies. They're holy. You've carried a baby in there that's not doing anything. They used to do pelvimetry. They now might use ultrasounds for that, to see the size of the pelvis and where the bones are. And even that, thinking about it, no reason. Your body's going to change as you get pregnant. Your bones open up. At the end of pregnancy, your hormones come into play, and your bones aren't different. No, they're really not. Like 3% maybe, you need a pelvic exam. Aside from that, you're doing fantastic, lady. You are just amazing. Watch her, listen to her, be with her, love her. You'll know where she's at. You know where she's at. Okay.
How do you know where she's at? Just a continuation on that thought.
Well, first off, she's in labor. She's pregnant still until the baby's out. And the question is, where am I? It's like, well, you still have the baby inside. You still take each contraction where it's at, and listen. Why don't you tell me? Why don't you tell me? Midwifery that starts in birth is not really midwifery, it's baby extraction. Midwifery that starts in loving, kind care and helping a woman learn and acknowledge her body and her sensations and what's going on. It's a totally different thing. A woman will go into pushing on her own. Women who've had previous birth traumas might go into pushing or be afraid to go in of those sensations. And you might have to do an internal for that woman to just say, I remember a woman who had 2 cesareans and then was birthing with me, and she was afraid to push, and I could clearly see she needed to push. And she said, just tell me. And I said, you have plenty of room and it's all open for the baby. What does 10 centimeters mean to us? Why are we stuck on these ridiculous things? We don't need that. That's not a woman. A woman is, we're in labor, we're out of labor, we're all open, ready for that baby to come through. Oh, we have more contractions. I would get away from the medical terminology and put it in the hands of everybody.
When you say a woman, what does 10 centimeters mean? Are you saying that some women, if you measure them when they were open and ready for the baby, they might be 9.5 centimeters and some women might be 11? Are you saying that it's potentially different for every woman?
Truthfully, looking at babies' heads afterwards, I mean, I haven't thought about it, but I would think yes. Some babies have littler heads, some babies have bigger heads. Our bodies are meant to do this. Our bodies are meant to stretch, our bodies are meant to open, our bodies are meant to close. They will do this. It's wonderful. Just like a woman has grown heart and legs and kidneys and eyes and a nose, and we haven't thought about it, we can give birth like that also. Some babies will have a smaller head. Some babies' heads will lap over. The bones are mobile and they will go over each other. And those sweet ones that come out with little hands, so yeah, our bodies do this. They know how to do this.
Okay, so before the next question, I'm just going to quickly repeat my disclaimer because I didn't record it. And for anyone who's seeing this in the recording, this Q&A with Carole does not convey all of Carole's 40-some years of midwifery experience to you. You are not a qualified midwife. And we are not FDA, CDC, World Health Organization approved or anything else. The idea is for this to help open up your mind, demystify the process a bit, and start asking some questions about what may or may not be necessary in your own personal journeys as you take personal responsibility for your own healthcare. Okay, that was said at the beginning, just repeating. All right, Carole, ultrasounds and sonograms. They're routine. In fact, many times in Israel, a doctor will never actually touch a woman's body during pregnancy, and all measurements of the baby and everything is done through ultrasound and sonogram. My question is, do you know of any risks from ultrasound? And are ultrasounds really necessary?
Ultrasounds, I've never seen a study that has proven ultrasound safe. I know you hurt your leg, you go to a physical therapist, they use an ultrasound to change how it's functioning and to help repair it. If we do that on our bodies, which are mature and capable and large, what are we doing on these little developing people? Now, I once had a woman whose father was he was a doctor and his specialty was ultrasounds. And he said, well, it's so minute. But I said, do you have a study that shows it is safe? It is not affecting them. And we're talking about an incredible process of growth, especially, those really early ones when they still have a little tail and they're coming into themselves and the absolutely phenomenal things that are going on at that point. And it doesn't matter how small it is, it's not meant to be there. I knew people who would want an ultrasound just to see the sex of the baby. And it's like, it's your choice, it's in your hands. Just know that we throw them around very quickly and they have not been proven safe. They use them, they will do them, but show me a study that shows this has shown there is absolutely no problem from them. We have many, many developmental problems that have come up in the past 30 years, 35, 40 years closer, when they have started using ultrasounds more frequently. And more frequently. And you can see that there are more developmental problems. There are many things that people say that they're from. Ultrasounds have come up. Do we know that it's not from them? Nothing has proven it. Nothing has shown it. So if you have a question, if there is something like, you're feeling a woman's stomach and it just doesn't seem right for the dates, and it continues like that, or it's either really big, really small, something you might be questioning. It's a tool. It is a tool. It can be your tool. Has it made for better, healthier children, better births, better outcomes? Haven't seen that, nor with monitors. Monitors have not reduced infant death syndrome, infant deaths. So
When you say monitors, you're referring to during the labor?
during labor.
Can you talk a little bit about about the types of monitors that might be used and how they pick up signals from a baby?
Let's start with the primitive one, the mother. That's not primitive. You sit with a woman in prenatals and you say, how you doing? And what's going on and what's happening and, you know, life coming, like going, the kids and the development. What's your baby like? Nobody relates a baby to the mother. The baby and the mother are an intimate connection. The mother can think about a baby and the baby will suddenly go, boom, boom, like, I'm here. That is an extremely important monitor, especially if if somebody's going into the hospital and is everything okay? Think of your baby, ask them, are you okay? Let them respond. I did this once I had an hour drive in an ambulance with a woman who was pushing, and it was like, how's your baby? There was no way to get a monitor on that was at all reliable. There was no way to hear anything. The mother thought about it and said, yes, I just felt the baby move. It's like, good, that baby's responding to you. Toda. Toda. That's one way. There are different non-electric monitors, fetoscopes that midwives have used over the years, different ways of listening. You have Bell fetoscopes, you have different sorts of fetoscopes that are not electronic. You have Dopplers, you have regular fetal monitors. You go into a hospital, you end up with hospital policy, but what the purpose of it is to do is to see what the heart rate is, especially in relationship to the contractions. Sometimes you can have what they call late decelerations, that the contraction will start, and as the contraction gets stronger, the heart tones go down, and then the contraction goes away, and then the heart tones come up. The baby is showing some stress to the labor. Turn the mother, try a different position, see if it's the same thing.
Now, when you say that there are you said earlier, there are certain types of monitors that haven't been proven safe, like the ultrasound. I assume
Ultrasound fetal monitors are all based on ultrasound waves, on like the sound waves that are bouncing off the babies.
And the fetal monitors, I think most people don't understand how they work, that they're screwed into a baby's head.
That's an internal fetal monitor.
Okay.
Now, a very interesting story that I'm going to tell you about. There's a lot of people who are here in Israel. I once met a man who had been in Israel. I went to visit my aunt in America. She pulled a neighbor over. He said, oh, I've been to Israel. I invented the internal fetal monitor. I said, the one that they screw into the baby's head? He said, yes. He came to Israel from America because he had to test it to see if it was working. He went into an Israeli hospital. He wanted to get a release form for the women to sign to say that they knew it was an experimental product. And the hospital in Israel, this is from the man who invented it, straight to my ears. He told them, you don't need to get anything, a release form, you just use it. We are a test population. We are a test population. You don't want something, refuse it. There are many things that are coming up that they have a very compliant, they consider people here very compliant. They have a very limited healthcare system, and they will then use a lot of experimental things to see if they work. And the internal fetal monitor was tried in Israel. If you want to know which hospital, I could tell you. I don't know if I could remember the year. I think I might be able to, but It was a test product that they used in Israel. Know that when they say they're using an internal fetal monitor, they're screwing something into your baby's skull.
Carol, so this leads us to the next question, and
Yes.
that is, which prenatal tests can be avoided, are not necessary, and which ones do you think are necessary, or you might, due to something that you palpate or something that the woman says, that you would recommend? Which ones can we safely avoid, and which ones do you recommend that are actually necessary?
Me personally, I'm going to answer this very personally. I am not part of the medical system, and I wouldn't be, because I would not want to require an ultrasound, among other things. If I started applying for that, I would have to go by that, and I would not agree with it. Blood tests are very important, to just make sure your level is okay. And to have somebody, like a couple people, look at this blood test, because I've had 7-week women with an iron level of below 8 being told from her doctor it's okay. It's not okay. You need to have your blood work done. It helps. Just you can change it. You can change it with diet. You can change it with actions. I am very careful not to require or not require any tests. Some people might want reassurance, and I don't want them to feel bad if they want to go in and have an ultrasound, if they want to go in and have a check. Palpation. A woman can lay down and feel her baby at 20 weeks and then start feeling the height of her uterus as she goes along. I think it's really good to have somebody who you can reflect off of, because sometimes we're not honest with ourselves. But especially when you start getting into early signs of toxemia, people who are just sort of bloated or their skin is off, and we don't always acknowledge these things in ourselves. Sugar tests, other midwives would require. I would leave it up to the woman. If I left it up to the woman, I would make sure she's never fasting. You don't want a woman to fast. You want to make sure that her levels of food going into her blood are going to stay somewhat stable. Blood pressure, I find, is important. It's not putting in anything into the woman or the baby, and I consider that a very non-interventive, very informal test. I do like pee sticks and to see if the woman's spilling protein and sugar. It also, you can look at ketones and leukocytes, and leukocytes is very interesting because you can see that the woman's fighting infection, where she is in the infection, and following it as she goes along. It might not help the pregnancy, but what it does is say, oh, yeah, your body's responding to that cut that you had. Your body's really working right. Your body's building up antibodies. And then next time you say, oh, this time you don't have it. You haven't had a cold or a cut or anything else like that in the past week. It's one of these things that I feel that it's not putting anything into the woman, and you're getting information to just say, yeah, look how great your body's functioning. I'm trying to think of what other tests I would want. If you're birthing in Israel and you're not birthing in a conventional setting, a hospital, or like with a midwife musmechet, a registered nurse midwife, you need to have some sort of a form after 32 weeks saying that you are definitely pregnant, and it has to be from a doctor, a certified gynecologist, because nobody else can really tell that you're pregnant. What other tests?
So Carole, what you're saying is that a woman can learn to perform a lot of these tests on her own, like learning to palpate the height of the fundus and measure that, the height of the uterus. And people can do their own pee sticks and learn how to read those. And things like that can be really empowering. The only thing that I'm getting here would be maybe some help with the blood pressure and maybe some help with the blood tests. But essentially, all the rest a woman could do on her own.
I like having, if you have another woman who's interested, and have her palpating also your stomach, and you could palpate her stomach when she's, and teaching each other and finding this out and discovering, and like, there are many things we can glean from each other. And that's returning our wisdom to our hands.
Thank you, Carole.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll move into supplements, vitamins, maybe special foods for both conception and during pregnancy to keep all of these levels that you're talking about up, and to keep a healthy pregnancy and to keep your energy up. Do you have anything that you recommend?
For women who are fearful, I'd say vitamin E after 34 weeks, and start like once a week, twice a week, slowly build it up. If your iron levels are low, I would say cook in a cast iron pot. Eat a colorful meal. Make sure she has protein. There's protein going in the diet. Our food is our cure. Our food and our, like, we have everything around us. Use it. If you want to take like all these other vitamins, if you want, how are you feeling? Like, let's say it's a woman, like she's not a standard, blotted out of a machine. Everybody's the same. Why should everybody have the same vitamins? If if your iron level's okay, why keep pushing it? This, especially with iron levels, because one of the things that I found over the years is toxemia. What happens with toxemia, you often find really high iron levels, which they'll say, oh, really good. You have tons of iron in your body is not adjusting to the pregnancy. It's not a good sign. Lower the iron levels. Let your body be. Quit like shoving it in there. I do like checking B12, because a lot of foods now we're depleted in B12. They talk about we're all depleted in Ds. Does it speak to you? I think when I meet a woman who's pregnant, I find out, like, what is her direction of health? Is she a homeopath? Is she a naturopath? Is she into Chinese medicine? Why make her something she's not? Strengthen in her direction. Good, find out. Do you have a practitioner? Interface with your practitioner. Find a direction that calls you, because it's not just for pregnancy, it's for taking care of your child. Because at some point, her kid's gonna go, and she's gonna say, do I ask somebody? Or do I do this? Or do I do that? Like, now, pregnancy is an amazing time to develop your inner strength and your inner voices. So vitamins and everything. Take your time to develop your inner voice. And start it, especially with vitamins and all these other creams and salves and vitamins like this and vitamins like that. You could buy out a whole pharmacy and baby store by being the perfect mother. You have to find what's right for you. It's your personal strength. So.
Postpartum hemorrhage. Postpartum hemorrhage is something a lot of women, when they think about home birth, that is the hang up. What if I have a postpartum hemorrhage, which is excessive bleeding after the birth? So
Okay.
the question, there's kind of two questions to my mind here. One is, how do you know if you're having a postpartum hemorrhage? What's the, like, aren't you supposed to bleed after you have a baby? How do you know it's a postpartum hemorrhage? A, and B, can that be addressed in a home birth? Can you do something about that at home? Is it pharmaceuticals? Are they necessary, or can you use herbs, or what are our options here?
Postpartum hemorrhage is a very real and can be a very dangerous event. If a woman has any sort of a bleeding factor or anything like that, think twice about if you're birthing at home, because it's not that you can't deal with it at home. Most hemorrhages, I mean, I've dealt with hemorrhages over the years. You can deal with. But what a hospital would provide is more hands and more capability, and some people, like, it's answering for your actions. So if you know you have a bleeding problem, think about it. Okay. My midwifery book from 1894 said, use vinegar, splash vinegar on a woman. I had a birth where I needed to pay attention to the baby, and I start seeing this gush of blood from the woman, and just splash some vinegar because I had no time to do anything else. And it closed it up until I could get to it. Was it coming from inside? Was it coming from where? I don't know. I didn't have time to do this. So vinegar is a first thing. There are many Chinese herbs, there's homeopathics, there's pressure points, there's many, many things that if you're considering giving birth at home, know one or two of these things. Share it with another, like if you had different herbs, share it with somebody else. Depends upon what your personality is like and who you are, what homeopathic things would work for you. If I'm at that time, I would not think twice about, am I giving the right one now, the wrong one now? You give. One of my births, the midwife was, oh, you're bleeding. And it's like, so do something. Do what you need to feel so you're not in a panic. Like, I'm here with a newborn. You want to be panicked? Do something. So if you're giving birth at, like, make sure that the person who is with you or you have something around. Can you take too much of the Chinese medicine or herbs or homeopathic at the time? Leave go of the question. Leave go of the question. You're doing what you need to do. You don't want to close down bleeding. Your body, the bleeding is there to serve as a purpose to keep flushing out whatever is around. It is healthier. Our bodies are made to do this. Postpartum hemorrhage. Let's talk about when your bleeding has gotten less, and then suddenly you get this great gush of bleeding. But guess what? Your body's just said, hey, you've just done too much. You need to rest again. Our bodies are miraculous with this. They tell us everything we need to know. Women, how many times do I get a call that they've just had a breed and the next day the woman's bleeding? That woman needs love and compassion. She's just left. Everybody was there. The energy was high. She's just put out. She smiled. She's held. She talked. She ate. She walked. She did this. She did that. Now everybody leaves. And oh my gosh, she's bleeding. Yeah, you need to rest.
Carole, I have a question.
Yeah.
Sometimes there is real hemorrhage.
Mhm.
And I, as a doula and doing home birth, I know that midwives carry different herbs with them, and many midwives also carry pharmaceuticals like Metrogen or Pitocin. Have you ever used that? Is there ever an instance where you've given a herb or vinegar and the woman is just losing blood and she might even be losing consciousness, where and you would you do you carry any of these, pharmaceuticals, and would you use them?
I carry all of them and I would use them, but I wouldn't use them first unless I felt like something else that I had to get right back to that baby, because I wasn't sure how that baby was doing. And I really wanted like an extra really good eye on that, because you're dealing with two variables. By manual compression, you put your hand at the top, like right above the pubic bone, and the other hand, you find the top of the uterus and you hold it down. And if you have to, you go inside and you hold it down. And you might apologize. You don't want that woman bleeding out. Reiki. Reiki works really well. There are so many things that work really well. The other thing that works really well is threaten the mother. You stop the bleeding. She's just had the baby. She's totally relaxed. Everything is out. This is fantastic. I don't have to do anything more. No more contraction. I am just great and I'm bleeding and I'm so relaxed. And it's like, no, you need to close up your uterus. You need it to be hard like this. Or, bimanual compression does not feel good. A lot of people don't. Our bodies are made to do this. I can't express enough that you can use shepherd's purse, you can use phosphorus, you can pulsatillum, caulifilum, you could use so many different things. I used to make teas beforehand, or things for teas, but when I need it, and I find homeopathics really worked really well. Chinese pressure points, really good. Threats, really good. If somebody in the room, there's a really well-meaning doula. I'm natural, I'm organic, I do all these things. And the woman's bleeding and she's in the corner going, look, you calm the other people down, because their fear factor is it's like you're balancing energy. There's a huge energy balance. We
Carole, we just lost your microphone, I believe.
Uh-oh.
Now I can hear you.
Okay, we keep separating the physical, emotional, and spiritual. Use them. They're at our command. They're there. You know that woman, like if you're with a woman, you know her desire, her dreams, her wants, her fears. Use it in loving kindness.
How do you know that you're dealing with a hemorrhage and not just regular bleeding?
We would practice throwing cups of stuff on a pad and seeing how much it is. You're alone with somebody, you want to deal with it, deal with it. There's no problem giving a preventative like pulsatilla or phosphorus or something like that. If it's going to calm the birth attendant, do it. If you start seeing
just to clarify, when you say pulsatilla and phosphorus, you're talking about the homeopathic preparation.
Homeopathic, yeah. If you start seeing great globs of blood all over the place, do something. Do something. It doesn't matter if you know how to identify a cup of blood, 50 mils of blood, 150 mils of blood. If you start seeing a large amount of blood that's making you uncomfortable, act. Pray. Pray. If fathers are around, have them focus on the positive, on the absolute incredible part of this baby, that the baby's out. Get the mother, as I said, get the mother to say, close down your uterus. Close it. It's not going to totally stop. It's going to come and it's going to go, and you don't want a woman to go into panic about bleeding, but you don't want pools of blood. You're not going to suddenly pick up what is normal amount of bleeding. So deal with whatever you can. You're dealing with yourself.
Should we, since we've hit 7 o'clock and I want to open this up to Q&A, should we do one more question? Do people want last question, or should we just open it up right now? You can all take a vote. If you want, is anyone writing in the chat? One more question? Okay. Gilla, you want to ask the last one?
Yeah. So I'm just going to combine two questions. And one is, many women experience what we call prodromal labor, which is a woman will say, I've been in labor for 3 days and I'm not dilating, or I had my water broken and I have contractions, but I'm not dilating. So when a woman is under the care, medical care, and she is not dilating, there's always the looming, induction or C-section, right? The looming.
Mm-hmm.
But even a woman at home might have, she experiences labor, yet the contractions are either irregular or just not being efficient, and she's not progressing. I don't want to say she's not dilating because maybe she's not being checked. So the question is, what do you suggest to a woman who's experiencing pain or experiencing exhaustion from this type of labor, yet her body hasn't kicked in to actually start doing the work?
I think labor comes about from relaxation and just total, and not from climbing stairs and going for walks.
So it's a mind.
Well, it's
Mind body.
mind in it. I can think of several times. I don't want to totally say mind. We're complex beings. We don't know what a woman in labor has ever experienced in life, and she might not remember it. There is, unfortunately, a huge amount of violence against women and inappropriate behavior, and a lot of it has to do with down there. So when you start feeling pressure and you start feeling something, that can be a real, like you're feeling it and you're trying to relax, but there's actually like this going on the inside. I would try and get the woman to relax as much as possible. Sleep. I really encourage sleep. Even in between contractions, laying down, finding comfortable positions, showers. I don't use really any sort of, the people say, what, they give birth without like an epidural. And it's like, yes. There are different, I think it's clary sage and citrus and things, smells that help relax. I would set like maybe a week or two is, by then your baby will be in your arms, and make it into like, well, whatever. Sometimes it might be the last birth and the woman's just holding on to their baby. Just like, I'm never going to be doing this again. Sometimes there must be something else be going on. It's not easy to go through these days and days and days of labor and lots of pressure, not sleeping. I would try as much as I can to just relax and let that woman sleep, take the pressure off, water break it. When I was learning in the early 80s, there was a Dr. Little in Vermont who would let people go for a week with waters broken. I thank him often for that example. Keep clean, monitor temperature, explain that the conventional hospitals will do things. They used to have a 24-hour period until they had required a C-section.
Some still have the 24-hour, but it's for induction and.
Really sad because it basically takes the power away from a woman. Sometimes you need more time. And if you keep doing internals during that time and saying, oh, well, you're still like 1 centimeter. And the woman's like, oh, it doesn't help. It's not helping. Once again, where am I in labor? You're still pregnant. Make it as light as you can. Know that those babies will be in your arms. Open up a conversation between the woman and the baby. Chinese, different points on the toe, behind the knee. Whatever, like incredible compassion at that time, knowing, and also, if a woman, sometimes a very common thing that I would find, not common, but I would find women would get to certain points and then would stop. Especially and women who've had maybe several other babies and they say, I get to 5 or 8 or 7 centimeters. And then it's like the midwife takes over. Why did she take over? Well, she was probably seeing something was changing. And we can either make it an empowering point or disempowering point. When a midwife or anybody says, keep going, more contractions, those contractions there, her body knows how to do it. It's shown. It's her mind that's suddenly going like, you can, I'm looking, you can do like a tapping on the woman. It's a different technique. And you would send her, it suddenly changes after you do it in between contractions. It's bilateral stimulation. If suddenly after 3 contractions, things suddenly change, that woman needs to find an EMDR therapist because there's something else in there. And she can clear it out. It doesn't need to be words. It deals with an emotional blockage in her. What other things can I tell you about? Lighten up. I mean, I remember a woman who I helped, 3 of her sisters with births, and I knew their pattern of labor, and her waters had been broken for 24 hours. And the midwife who she had said, okay, I'm done. I can't have anybody at home with 24 hours. And I said, go outside, take a little walk, everything just focus on your sisters. This one did it that way, this one did it that way, and it's okay. And within 2 hours, your baby was out. She needed loving compassion. There's some family history there of it. Why not? Why not? The other thing about exhaustion in labor, is it exhaustion or is it disconnect from the world? When we say we're exhausted and you get a woman who's just like, she's going, wait, oopsie, I just lost you. Where'd you go? Where'd you go? Where'd you go? hold on. When you get a woman who's totally exhausted and laying back and she can do absolutely nothing else but lay there, and she's so tired, make sure she's hydrated, make sure she's peeing, let her sleep and be exhausted, and just with every contraction, let go, let go, let go. That's separating from the world. Not one of us on this call would be able to give birth in the next 5 minutes. You have to get into a different mindset. You need to separate. You need to leave go. You need to, it's a totally different state of being. You call it exhaustion? Okay, I'm happy for you. Leave it be. I know you can do it. You have every capability in you to get this baby out. That baby wants to be in your arms too. Relax. Enjoy the last moments that you have with this baby inside. Appreciate it. And tell this baby how nice it will be to give it kisses. It's a very different space. Let it be honorable and not one of you're not performing. Anything else?
Carole, you're taking us all back to our birds, I'm sure, with your words. I would love to open this up for Q&A. We also have other questions if you don't, audience members, but I'm sure you do. I'm going to kind of move us back into gallery and stop the recording right